My nymph box is absolutely full of different nymphs, tied in different colors, different weights and different patterns. But even for this I have 3 favorite flies, and normally I have at least one of them on my team while I'm Czech nymphing. And the first one is a little imitation of a green caddis larva tied with olive floss silk. Very nice little pattern. The second fly is a cased caddis imitation tied and developed by the Tidan fisherman Björn Blomqvist. And if you like to, you can add a tungstone head to this fly if you like to have this fly to sink a bit faster. The third fly among those favorite flies is the latest, and this fly is tied with a jig hook which makes the fly to go upside down and prevent the fly to get stuck in the bottom. This pattern can be tied in different colors as well, so it can be tied with a gold head or even a silver head if you prefer. But my favorite is this tied with a copper head and a brownish body. But let's start with the green caddis larva.
Give the fly some weight by covering most of the shank with closely wound fine lead wire, as far as the bend in the hook. The lead wire must be closely wound so that no gaps appear. Carefully wind on a further layer of lead wire, making sure it doesn't cut into the layer below. Fasten the tying thread in front of the weight and make a smooth underbody by covering the lead wire with even turns of tying thread. In the middle of the bend in the hook, fasten a 10 cm length of soft gold-coloured wire. Cut a strip of nymph skin about 3 to 4 millimeters wide. Make sure one end is cut to a point, as this makes fastening it to the hook easier. Fasten a 30 cm long piece of floss silk to the underside of the shaft, so that a few centimetres of the silk stick out in the direction of the eye. Keeping the rest of the floss silk taut along the underside of the hook, wind the tying thread back over the silk all the way to the bend in the hook. Wind the floss silk once exactly at the bend of the hook, keeping the material flat. Then twine the floss silk together with the tying thread to make a compact round thread. Wind the tying thread and the floss silk forward to make a segmented body, ending at the point where the short piece of floss silk is secured. Pull down the loose floss silk and carry on winding the body as far as the eye of the hook. Secure the floss silk properly with tying thread and a half hitch. Bend the back film forward and secure it on the back of the fly by ribbing gold wire evenly forward to the point where the loose floss silk is hanging. Release the back film and carry on ribbing the wire as far as the eye of the hook. Secure the gold wire firmly with tying thread to prevent it coming loose. Bend the rest of the back film forward over the thorax and secure it right behind the eye of the hook. Make a well-defined head using tying thread. Finish the tying activities with a strong whip finish knot. Trim off the loose floss silk fibres hanging down from the underside of the fly. These represent the legs of the larva, but are intended to create an illusion of movement rather than be an exact imitation of the legs. Colour the back film over the thorax using a dark, waterproof pen. If you want to add extra strength to the fly, varnish the head with superglue or fly tying varnish.
Börja med att trä på en 4 mm tungstenskalle på kroken om du vill att flugan ska sjunka extra fort. Täck hela krokskaftet med ett tätt lindat lager av blytråd hela vägen fram till tungstenskallen. Tryck fram lagret av blytråd så att de främsta varven skjuts in under tungstenskallen. Fäst bindtråden och linda sedan framåt i täta varv över hela lagret av blytråd. Fortsätt att linda tråden till en jämn underkropp. Fäst in en bunt fjäderfibrer från kalkon. Tänk på att dessa ska vara tillräckligt långa för att kunna vikas bak och täcka hela flugans rygg. Fäst fast en drygt decimeterlång bit koppartråd som sedan ska användas till flugans ribbing. Klipp till en bit brun chenil och dra bort fibrerna från ena ändan så att endast kärnan blir kvar. Fäst fast chenilens skalade garnända en bit bakom metallskallen. Tvinna samman bindtråd och chenil och linda dem tillsammans till en kropp hela vägen bak till krokböjen. Fäst chenilen vid krokböjen med några hårt dragna trådvarv och klipp bort överskjutande chenil. Vik bak kalkonfibrerna över flugans rygg. Tänk på att spänna ut fibrerna så att de verkligen ligger jämnt fördelade över hela flugryggen. Lås fast kalkonfibrerna genom att linda fram bindtråden i jämna varv över hela kroppen. Trimma fjäderfibrerna till en drygt halvcentimeter lång stjärt. Linda fram koppartråden i samma spår som bindtråden lindats, hela vägen fram till där bindtråden hänger. Dubba tråden med löst dubbat harhår. Linda dubbingen till ett spretigt thorax mellan kroppen och tungstenskallen. Avsluta flugans bindmoment genom att göra en vippfinnerseknut tätt intill metallskallen. Dra bort lösa hårfibrer så att thoraxpartiet får ett mer slimmat utseende. Originalmönstret binds utan tungstenskalle men i övrigt på exakt samma sätt som den här flugan. Börja med att trä på en 3 mm tungstenskalle på kroken. Fäst bindtråden och linda ett jämnt trådlager över hela krokskaftet. Klipp bort cirka 5 CDC-fibrer från en naturgrå CDC-fjäder. Fäst fibrerna till en stjärt på krokskaftets ovansida. Fäst in en drygt 20 cm lång koppartråd där stjärten sitter infäst. Dra i koppartråden så att den sticker ut lika mycket om var sida av bindtråden. Vik härefter bak koppartråden och fäst den med ytterligare trådvarv. Linda fram bindtråden och vik ner den ena av koppartrådens ändar. Dubba på flyrighten direkt på koppartråden. Tänk på att lägga på dubbingen i små portioner i taget. Annars finns det risk för att kroppen blir ojämn. Linda dubbingen till en tunn, kompakt kropp fram till där bindtråden hänger. Den dubbade koppartråden får en fantastisk lyster då flugan blir blöt och du kan även använda andra färgkombinationer. Ribba flugan motsols med den kvarvarande koppartråden över hela kroppen. Fäst ribbingen ordentligt framför kroppen och klipp bort överskjutande del. Dubba tråden med grönoliv prismdubbing. Om det är svårt att fästa dubbingen på tråden kan man med fördel vaxa tråden innan. Då blir det ofta betydligt enklare. Linda ett spretigt, välmarkerat thoraxparti mellan kroppen och tungstenskallen. Avsluta med en vippfinisherknut tätt intill tungstenskallen.
So, these 3 flies are my favorite patterns for this technique. But while we were in the Czech Republic, we had the opportunity to see while Vladimir and Vit tied their flies in our hotel room. And this traditional Czech nymph was one of the flies they tied. And it was really interesting to see these guys tie their favorite flies for the Czech nymph technique.
Here I show you one of my best summer fly. It is green, light green, Czech nymph, typical Czech nymph. I use it together with 2 gold head nymph in the middle of the leader. I use it for grayling and for brown trout.
Start by giving the fly some weight with lead wire. Fasten the lead wire in the middle of the bend of the hook. Wind it on evenly to within a few millimetres of the eye. Fasten the tying thread at the eye and cover the lead wire with closely wound turns down to the bend of the hook. Fasten a 3 to 4 millimetre wide strip of back film in the bend. It's easier to fasten if you first cut one end to a point. Two sorts of ribbing are used for this fly. Start by fastening a length of silver wire and then a length of thin, transparent fishing line. Dub the rear part of the body with a thin layer of rabbit dubbing. Wind this to make the rear body, covering about 2/3 of the length of the hook shank. Dub the thread with a small amount of glitter dubbing and wind it onto the front of the body to form a well-marked heart, as the Czechs say. The rest of the thorax is covered with a darker, straggly rabbit dubbing. Dub the thread with small amounts at a time to produce a tight, compact dubbing. Rib the silver-coloured wire evenly over the whole body and fasten it firmly right behind the eye of the hook. Brush out the dubbing using a toothbrush with shortened bristles, for example. Bend the back film over the whole length of the fly's back and fasten it behind the eye of the hook. Fasten the film where desired by winding on the transparent fishing line, using close turns all the way to the eye of the hook. Secure all the material properly using a few extra half hitches of thread before cutting off. Wind on a fly head and finish the tying activities with a few tight half hitches just behind the eye. Paint the back film over the dark thorax using a waterproof felt pen. Give added strength to the fly by using a few drops of clear varnish or super glue to varnish the head.
Here I have the silverhead pheasant tail. It's our very good fly for competition for grayling and whitefish. We use it on the tip of the leader.
Start by putting a silver-coloured head on the hook. Cover the shank of the hook with closely turned tying thread up to where the bend of the hook starts. Fasten and shape some strands of partridge hen hackle to a tail, just in front of the bend in the hook. For ribbing, attach a thin, light copper wire to the same place as the tail. Dub the thread with a thin layer of brown rabbit dubbing. Wind the dubbing over the entire shank as far as the metallic head to form a compact body. Rib the copper wire evenly over the body and secure it behind the head with a few turns of tying thread. Brush out the dubbing using a toothbrush with shortened bristles. Use glitter dubbing on the thread, then double over the thread to make a dubbing loop. Use a dubbing twister to spin the loop, making a compact but straggly thread. Use the colourful dubbing to make a short but well-defined thorax behind the metallic head. Secure the dubbing loop and finish the tying activities with a few tight half hitches just behind the metallic head. Give the fly added strength by spreading some varnish over the knots.
My own special Czech nymph.
Start by covering the shank of the hook with closely wound lead wire. Fasten the tying thread and wind a few well spread out turns over the lead wire. This will keep the lead wire in place and stop it coming apart later. Secure a length of thin, transparent fishing line in the bend of the hook. Cut a 3 to 4 mm wide strip of either vinyl or flex body. Remember to shape one end to a point to make fastening it easier. Fasten the back film on the bend of the hook, but on the upper side of the shank. Use tying thread to build up an even underbody, so that the join between the lead wire and the hook is smoothed out. Use the tying thread to make a 10 cm long dubbing loop. Wax the loop and fasten small amounts of dubbing at a time between the threads of the loop. Make sure the loop is kept taut all the time, so the dubbing is held tightly between the threads. Spin the loop using a dubbing twister to form a compact dubbed thread. Turn the spun dubbing onto the fly to make a closely wound body. Notice in particular how little dubbing Vladimir uses to avoid overdressing the fly. Make a new dubbing loop where the previous one ended. Dub and spin the next colour as before. Finish winding on the rear body, which should cover about half of the hook shank. The thorax of the nymph should be clearly visible and is made of light pink rabbit skin, among other things. Dub on the rabbit fibres using a dubbing loop. Wind on the dubbing to make a pink thorax, but remember to leave some of the shank free, up to the eye, so there's room for the other material. Dub a very thin layer of glittery prism dubbing and wind it on just in front of the pink thorax. To make the fly look livelier, spin some dubbing for the front part of the thorax. Turn the plastic film over the entire back and secure it with tying thread behind the eye of the hook. Secure the fly with a whip finish knot before the next activity, otherwise the back film might come away. Rib the entire fly with the thin fishing line, using tight, even turns up to the eye of the hook. Notice that Vladimir keeps pulling the dubbing out of the way so it doesn't get caught up in the ribbing. Twine the ribbing and the tying thread together for a few turns and secure the ribbing with a few turns of thread. Finish off the tying activities by turning a well-defined head from tying thread. Clearly mark the fly's thorax by painting the back film with a dark colour, using a waterproof felt pen. You can brush out the dubbing using a dubbing brush to give the fly even more life.
Mein gold medal nymph Sweden.
Give the fly some weight by covering the shank with closely wound lead wire as far as the bend in the hook. Secure tying thread in the bend of the hook and wind a few well-spaced turns over the lead wire to keep it in place. This fly is ribbed with two materials, a thin monofile fishing line and a thin red copper wire. Start by fastening a length of thin fishing line deep down in the bend of the hook. Secure the back shield at the same spot as the ribbing, and then wind on an underbody of tying thread to smooth out the edges of the lead wire. Make a dubbing loop from tying thread furthest back in the bend of the hook. Add dubbing in small, loose bunches between the threads of the loop. Note especially that the amount of dubbing increases the further out in the loop it comes. This allows you to prepare the shape of the fly in advance, as it should increase in thickness further along the shank. Use a dubbing twister to spin the loop, making a compact dubbed thread. If the copper wire hasn't been secured yet, it can be fastened with the spun dubbing loop before the body's wound. Wind on a gently tapering rear body over about 2/3 of the shank of the hook. Secure the dubbing loop well with tying thread when the body's completed. Rib the rear body with a red copper wire all the way to the tying thread. Make a new dubbing loop with tying thread. Wax the loop so that the dubbing will get a better grip between the threads. Put the natural squirrel dubbing between the threads of the loop, small bunches at a time. Use a dubbing twister to spin the loop, making a compact dubbed thread. Dub a well-defined thorax between the rear body and the eye of the hook. Bend the back strip over and secure it behind the eye of the hook using a whip finish knot. Wind the thin fishing line over the entire fly up to the eye of the hook, using tight, even turns. Secure the ribbing by first twining it together with the tying thread. Make a well-defined head using tying thread. Finish the tying activities with a strong whip finish knot. Finish off the fly by brushing out the dubbing fibres with a stiff dubbing brush. To define the fly's darker front, colour the back of the thorax with a waterproof pen.
You have now seen how to tie a handful really good nymph patterns for this technique. And to tie your own flies adds another dimension to fly fishing. It's not only fun to tie them in itself, but it also gives you a great possibility to make flies in great variations, different sizes, different weights, and different shades. If you'd like to learn more about this technique, about its history, the people and the flies, I would highly recommend Karel Kravenec's book Czech Nymph and other related methods. And you will also find a lot of more flies to tie with nice color pictures like these. The Czech Nymphs are normally tied with cheap materials as you easily will find in most tackle shops in your country. So you now have a couple of real nice patterns to start with, and you know what materials to use. So let's start to fill up your fly books, and good luck.